Audrey.
And I'm Margie.
And welcome back to the Harmony Group podcast. We are so glad that you're here today. Margie, tell everybody what we've got going on today.
All right. So today we're going to begin talking a little bit about the 10 commandments of emotional intelligence. Now, this comes from a book called EQ Applied. And if you are not familiar with it, man, it is really good because it helps us dig into some practical things that can just help us be better at managing our own emotions and people around us, recognizing those emotions, right? Which is the name of the game.
And I don't know about you, but there are times it takes some concentration for me to know exactly which emotion I'm feeling. And sometimes it's not even one. Sometimes there's a whole conglomeration happening at one time.
Well, and so you didn't really know this, but you were transitioning perfectly into the first commandment. Well done. All right. So the first commandment, and again, this is from the appendix in this book, and it really is kind of a summary of a lot that he's talked about throughout it. So the first one is thou shalt ponder thy feelings.
Would you mind restating that in maybe a Shakespearean accent?
I don't think I could do that on the fly, but you probably can.
Thou shalt not, what is it? Thou shalt ponder thy feelings. Everybody.
Why did you feel the need to put the not in there? Is that your King James coming out?
James. Yes. Thou shalt not.
Thou shalt not. No, thou shalt.
Thou shalt. Thou shalt.
Thou shalt ponder thy feelings.
Ponder.
I got to be honest with you. I don't always want to stop and think about my own. It's hard to identify my feelings sometimes. Yes. Sometimes they come in waves and they are good or bad or, happy, sad, very broad, vanilla, general terms. But I have a hunch this is really calling us to dig in a little bit more. How do you do with that?
Well, I would love to say I'm a lot better at it now. I think the truth is I may be better, but I don't know that I'm a lot better. I do think they come in waves. I've noticed there have been times where I have a more surface emotion of something that's going on in the present, but it's overlapping something that's kind of happening long-term. And when they compile, it becomes something else. Like I may be feeling the underlying feeling of grief, especially last year after losing our dad. There was this underlying weird feeling of grief, but I might also be really upset that I asked somebody to clean the bathroom and the bathroom is still a mess. And so now I have frustration or irritation, but it's kind of stacked on top of grief. And so it looks weird.
Yeah. To piggyback on what you just said, I have a friend that calls that the thing behind the thing.
Yes.
And that oftentimes, and we see that in the classroom, we see that when we're working with our coworkers and our families, we're upset about one thing, but it really is hurt underneath, or it really is, maybe it's bitterness underneath, or it's shame, all of those emotions that come out that, and then that causes us to respond differently when we can identify those feelings within ourselves. And we realize, oh, I'm really just sad. I'm sad that it's, this thing happened. Not so much that it's the kid not cleaning the bathroom, although that happens.
Are you sure it was a kid that was supposed to clean the bathroom?
Well, we could go there,
but we won't. We'll behave. It's fine. Well, I think it's possible over the last 2 years, especially through the pandemic, anytime that we had to go through quarantining, that there may have been this underlying feeling of loneliness. Another kind of fear, especially some anxiety about how bad things were going to get, especially at the beginning, that first 6 months. That was really kind of scary for a lot of us. Absolutely. And so then if we add on things that are just happening here, maybe we're hungry too, because we didn't go to the store and get the food we wanted. Instead, we got, the bag of lettuce that goes bad in a week and we throw it away. When what we wanted was a can of Pringles.
Right.
And
Yeah.
that can cause us to make some really poor choices. So,
It's
so what
true.
can we do? What do we do? How do we get through this?
Yeah. So pondering our feelings, I think, does help us to identify where we're falling in our seasons and our cycles and our whether it's at work or here at home. But it's interesting because this leads kind of into the second commandment. Let's tackle two today.
Yeah.
The second one says, "Thou shalt learn from other perspectives." And sometimes, whether it's our own emotions or other people's emotions, I've been trying to think about how that broadens the way I think about how they're seeing the situation. So once I can kind of think, okay, I'm seeing the situation this way, how are they seeing the situation? So I'll tell you a quick story.
Yeah.
When we lived in New Orleans, when my big kids were little, we had this neighbor who would come over, and a little girl, she would to play with our kids, and she would come over, and every time she would come over, she would say things like, "Gosh, I'm really thirsty." And I would think to myself,
Just out of the blue.
I feel like she wants a drink, but she wouldn't say that. And then she would follow up with, "Oh, do you have tea made? Or is that a Sprite on your counter?" Or something like that.
Uh-huh.
And I'd be like, "Yep, yep, it is." And inside me in the moment, I'm thinking, I'm being manipulated. I'm like, I start to feel like, this little kid, why can't she just ask flat out, "Can I have a drink, please?" Which would have been fine. Of course you can have a drink.
Right. It's New
And she was
Orleans. Of course people are thirsty. It's hot.
That's right.
Yeah.
She was probably just thirsty. And I'm a mom she doesn't know very well. And so if I would look at something from her perspective, I probably should have just said something like, "Honey, when you come to my house, if you want a drink, all you have to do is say, 'Could I have a drink, Miss Johnson?'" And I would say, "Sure, of course you can." But there was a time, and I was young. This was a while back. I would be like,
It's a safe place.
I wouldn't even
place.
ask, do you want to drink it? First, I'm like, she will ask if she wants something. And then eventually, of course, I would say, "Would you like a drink?" And she would say yes, but I would do it begrudgingly because in my heart, I was thinking, "Girl,
She's manipulating.
just say." So all those emotions come out. But when I think about things from other people's perspective, sometimes it helps identify even that in my own heart. And then I think, gosh, I can help meet the need of somebody else too. So do you see how those go together, or do you feel like they do?
I totally think they do. It reminded, as you were talking, it made me think. So I'm putting this little workshop together on conflict resolution for a sorority and in a month or so. And one of the perspectives, or one of the issues of perspective that we're going to talk about, is it's all going to relate to the rules that you grew up with about your sofa or your couch. And so I'm going to start by asking them if your house rules, whatever kind of house it was growing up, or mom and dad's house, whatever, if you were allowed to jump on your sofa, raise your hand. If you're allowed to jump on your sofa as long as you weren't wearing shoes, raise your hand. If you were not allowed to jump on your sofa, but you were allowed to sit or lay down as long as you weren't wearing shoes, raise your hand. Were you only allowed to sit on the sofa? No feet. It didn't matter if you had shoes on, had socks on, had dirty feet. A couch was for sitting, your bed was for laying down. Raise your hand. And then start to talk about, okay, so look at all the different rules that this group of people had just about your sofa, about your couch. And if now all of a sudden you're living together and you have a couch, can you see how different people will think they're doing the right thing, but they're actually not? In somebody else's perspective, they're not. my mama would never have let me jump on the
Right.
couch. Meanwhile, Susie Q over here, her mama would. And so we
Mm-hmm.
have these different perspectives when it comes to rules, to behaviors, to the way we see things. And I think if we can think about different perspectives from maybe something really simple like a couch or a sofa,
Mhm.
it can be a stepping stone to starting to look at different perspectives from some bigger topics, which frankly are hard to, it's really hard to think from other people's perspectives, especially
Yeah.
when they won't think about your perspective, when they shut yours down, and
Exactly.
you're like, come on, just listen to me. One of those things.
Yeah. It's so good. Especially, as you were talking, I was thinking that's one of those things that would have caused a fight in our marriage early on, when you're first starting out. And it's not a moral or ethical issue. It's
No.
not, I mean, those are not big rocks that we have to address in one particular way where, but it is our preference. It's how we're trained, it's how we're taught. And we have a dear, dear pastor friend of ours who still is a pastor in Tampa. And in counseling, he talks about it like a dollar bill, the view we each have of a dollar bill. So if we're sitting across from one another and we hold that dollar bill up, and I describe what I see and you describe what you see, we'll describe two totally different things, but we're both
Yes.
describing the dollar bill that's in front of us. And
Yes.
so when we think about that person's perspective,
Mhm.
and sometimes how that drives our own emotions,
Yeah.
and then how we can appreciate and ask questions about that. Again, I don't love thinking about things from other people's perspectives because it's
Right.
hard and it really, and then I do feel like they're wrong, or I feel like,
Sure. It's
I-
different.
it's different.
Mhm.
It's different, but boy, it's good. And when we realize it's not about something that's right or wrong, but rather someone else's experience and what
Yes.
they bring to the table, it's so, so good.
Okay,
Well,
one more thing I thought about real quick. I got to tell you, it's if anybody wants to think about another quick perspective check, think about how you are with breakfast foods and people from different parts of the country. Just something simple like grits. Are you a salty, like salt and butter, maybe some cheese or bacon, or are you sweet with sugar or jelly? That can cause a huge rift.
hold on.
I know. Don't ask.
Did you say sugar? And now I live in Georgia,
Yes.
born in Georgia.
Yes.
So I feel like I'm going to just clarify. Did you say sugar and jelly?
Okay. So yes, the truth is I said the words,
I don't
but
even understand.
I don't. Yeah. It's a different perspective, Margie.
And so I shall learn.
Is it wrong?
I shall learn from
Shout.
other people's perspectives.
It's
Well,
not
big-
mine, of course.
So I'm shouting out to two of my friends at my school. We have a little group chat, and the only thing in the group chat from month to month is it's cheese grits day. It's cheese grits day for the
Oh.
cafeteria because their grits are so good, but there's no sugar or
There's no
jelly
sugar.
happening.
No, and it's not me, of course.
Yeah, well,
I would never.
no.
And I'm not a cream of wheat girl either.
Yeah, I don't. Well, let's keep our viewers on the hook a
Okay,
little
but
longer. We won't
people
go-
who like cream of wheat, they're great.
They're our faves.
They're
You put
super.
jelly and sugar in your grits.
Wait, you are super
We
sweet.
love you.
Go
We sure
on with
do.
your bad self. You get it, girl.
Well, we are going to work this week on pondering our own feelings,
Yes.
learning from other people's perspectives, and maybe we try sugar and jelly and grits. Maybe we try to think about things from other people.
I could
it's
try a
work.
bite.
It's work, but we're in this because we're in it for other people. We're in it for
That's right.
harmony. We're in it for
Harmony.
just to be our best selves.
We are. And we can do this, and you can too. And we are so glad that you joined our little podcast today to help hold us accountable to this, trying things from other perspectives. We would love to hear if you are a cheese grits or if you are a sugar or jelly. Let us know below. And I will do my best to try it this week. I'll take a picture and I'll post it and let you know if I like it.
Great.
Okay.
All right. See
Well,
y'all
until next time, I'm Audrey,
I'm Margie.
and we hope you live in harmony this week. Bye.